Grace is an award-winning coach, international speaker, and an author with over 25 years' experience in transforming the lives of women. Grace is the founder of Multiple Income Women, where she helps women leaders and experts become well-paid thought leaders. For the last 25 years, Grace has used her ministry, Gladys Famoriyo Ministries, to help purpose-minded women fulfill God's calling on their lives without baggage, burnt out, or the blues. One of her initiatives is Living Purposefully, Finishing Strong, a monthly women's meet where women pause and reflect on their journeys. Founded on Hebrews 12, 1-2, women learn tools, principles, and strategies to lay aside any weight whilst deepening and strengthening their relationships with God. In 2015, the Lord Chief Justice appointed Grace to serve as a Justice of Peace magistrate. She now serves both the adult and family courts. Grace also mentors aspiring and new magistrates. Please give a rousing Thrive welcome to Grace Gladys Famoriyo.
Oops, I made that error every one of us makes by not unmuting ourselves. Okay, I'm just going to share my slides with you. Well, thank you so much for having me on board. I am so grateful for the opportunity. Thank you for the leadership, Pastor Liz, and all the other pastors in the house. Thank you so much for your opportunity. Now, what I'm going to be doing today is talking about monetizing your gift and how to work less, earn more, and stress less about money. Now, I don't know if there's anybody in the house who wants any of those things. You can put a 1 in the chat to say, yay, that's me, okay? If that's you, I got your number. I know that, a number of us, are in that kind of situation. So yeah, so I'm going to be spending 30 minutes now. I've got a lot to cover. So I'm going to be, using my note cards to help me just make sure that I'm giving you all the gems that I actually planned to share with you today. And just in case, for your information, it's 30 minutes. However, some of the nuggets I'm going to be sharing are what I've taken from my 12-week Monetize Your Expertise program. So you can find out more information after that. And if you listen to the end, I also have a little gift for you. So that's a little incentive there to support you for this program. But I'm excited to be here. And as I said, my key thing is to help women. In fact, I've been doing that for the last 25 years in one shape or the other. I'm the founder of Multiple Income Women, where I help women, leaders and experts become well-paid leaders. Now, a number of people, especially some of the participants today might be thinking, I'm not a leader, okay? I've got nothing to offer. Guess what? From the moment God sent you on planet Earth, you are a leader. You are already made. We talk about Esther. The Bible talks about you're made for such a time as this. So as far as I'm concerned, you're a leader, okay? So don't tune out. Don't think, oh, this sounds a bit businessy or whatever. Just open your heart and ask God to just give you strategies, how you could actually implement a number of things. Now, just for some information in terms of where I am, you can Google me and find me on Multiple Income Women, and then also find me as Grace the Author. Now, before I start, I'm just going to mention right now that I'm talking about monetizing your gift. However, okay, when we talk about gifts, I include in that your expertise, your skills, your passions, the things that you just know to do, that you can probably do with your eyes closed. I also include in that our life stories, because believe me or not, people can actually benefit from your life stories. Just check out some of the biggest speakers out there. I won't mention any names now, but some of them, the first thing they do is they start with their story in their books, in their speaking engagement. So don't discount any experience that you've had. It all helps, when it comes to monetizing our gifts. So when I'm talking about gifts, you might hear me talk about expertise. It's the same thing. It's using what God has placed in your hands, your own jar of oil. And that's what we're going to be focusing today. Now, I want to start off by sharing with you the story of one of my clients, a lady who we'll call Jane for the benefit of this session today. Now, Jane is typical, like a number of us, we all have jobs, we're hustling here, there, and everywhere. We're trying to do so many different things to put a buck on a table, maybe to send money back home, whatever it is, we're all, in a race of doing something or the other. However, let me tell you a story about Jane. When she came to me, she actually owned up to the fact that, Grace, I'm struggling to pay my mortgage, and I'm currently at a risk of losing the house. Now, it's interesting that the previous speaker was talking about mortgages and houses, right? And, this individual, worked so hard for it, and she was, falling to bits when she was actually telling me the story, because, you've worked hard and you don't want to see something that you've put a lot of investment in just go to pot. But let me give you a little bit of a backstory in terms of Jane and her life, because some people might be, painting this picture of this person in their mind. But let me just give you a backstory. Now, Jane was somebody who was running a training and development consultancy. It wasn't doing particularly well. It was okay, but you know how it is. When it's okay and it's not bringing in enough, what do? We go and get another job, okay? So that's the idea about working harder and harder. So Jane got another job as a lecturer. So I'm talking about somebody who's, we're not talking about, somebody who's, idle or whatever. She has her own business. Then she went and got a part-time job. Yet with all of that, she still had an issue. There wasn't enough money coming in, and she just didn't know what to do. And she was like, oh, some of us do. Okay, so she was finding it really hard. And so Jane came to me, but interestingly enough, Jane came to me because she wanted to turn one of her passions, because she's a lecturer in a niche specialist subject. I won't mention it, just I'll wait for her to become famous publicly and then I'll say, okay, but she had a very niche subject she wanted to write about. So when she came to me, her idea was to write books. And as I do with all of my clients, I say to them, you know what, I'm in the business of helping you turn your jar of oil, so your expertise, your gifts, whatever it is that you have, to turn it into multiple income sources. I do not believe that, in fact, I'm, as you can see from Jane's story, she had 2 incomes, but it wasn't even enough. And she was the main breadwinner of the home. She had family to take care of, both here and the UK, back home. She had so many things going. So, it just, for anybody who's thinking, oh, well, I'm a professional, I got a job, I'm climbing the corporate ladder, that might be great. But guess what? I'm also got clients who are now telling me, who've climbed that ladder, who are now being threatened with redundancy, or there's no, they don't know what's going to happen with their job come 3 months down the line, and the organization has told them that. And I'm saying all this to say, don't switch off. I really do believe that Father wants to use this whole day's program to start to get everybody to start thinking differently. And so this is the journey I started with Jane. And I said to her, you know what, as long as you're willing to take action that you may not necessarily be comfortable with, as long as you're willing to change your behaviors, guess what? We can solve this issue. Okay, so let me fast forward just under 18 months. In fact, probably she started to see results from about 3 months on. I will get conversations in our one-to-ones where she'd say, Grace, what are you doing to me? I'm like, what's happened? I'm getting speaking engagements. I haven't had that, in a long time. Okay, we'll just continue. And you know what, at Christmas, just Christmas gone last year, when we had another one of our one-to-ones, guess what she said to me? Grace, I'm overwhelmed. And, she looks tired. It was on Zoom. She looked completely tired. And I said, what's the problem? And she said, Grace, you know what, for the first time in my life, running that business, I've had to turn away business. And she said, actually, you know what, it's not just business. This week alone, I have turned down over £10,000 worth of business. Now, let me rewind that again, just in case you didn't hear. In a week alone, she had to turn away £10,000 worth of business. She said, Grace, I don't know what you did to me. I'm now being globally headhunted by organizations. I've been invited to speak at panels where the leaders of the niche and the influencers of the niche are sitting right next to me. What's going on? I don't feel, as some of us ladies do, we feel, oh my God, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. And I said, you know what, no, you've worked hard for it, and now you're seeing the fruits of your labors. And you know what? So, and that was her story, time and time again, even till now. You know, the opportunities, the speaking engagement, she's now sought highly, to the fact that with speaking engagements, she's now turning them down, completely turning them down, because she has no more capacity. And now, as a coach, I'm now coaching her as an executive who's, you know, generating a large amount of money to move her forward. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Something shifted. Okay, something shifted. Now, one of the things, you know, my clients, I always tell them, as much as I'm doing the physical with you, and all the strategies and the principles I'm sharing with you, and the actions and the goals we put into place, there are also spiritual principles. And I love the fact that a number of people here are of faith. And, you know, I also pray, and doors started to open. But I want to share with you some of the tangible things that she did. And I'm going to share 3 things. They may not be rocket science. They may not be, because even the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. But this is one of the things I say to all my clients and those who are joining me on the Monetize Your Expertise Bootcamp. It's a simple principle. Do the right thing at the right time in the right order. That's it. Okay. So what a number of us sometimes do is especially when we find ourselves in the Jane scenario, can't pay your bills, can't have the life you want, can't buy that bag, can't buy that shoe, you know, can't go on holiday, can't have a spa break. You know, your world just is like austerity, can't do this, can't do that. And you know what, you know, after a while, it becomes, you know, a bit, you know, demeaning. You're thinking, you know, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I, you know, start to see? So just bear with me. I'm just going to share with you 3 things in terms of maximizing your gifts or your expertise or your life experience or whatever it is that you are bringing to the table. So just quick question. What changed? You might be asking me. Let's dive in and see what's changed. Well, there are 3 simple, powerful actions. Now, notice the word action. This is not a case where we're faith in it. Oh, I'm praying about it. I'm thinking about it. I'm writing that business plan and whatever. No, it's action. And I think that's probably going to be a running through theme for the rest of the day. There has to be action. You know, I adopt the approach of watching and praying. Okay, so I'm doing the praying bit, but I'm also doing all the necessary things that I need to do so that, you know, heavens can bless, you know, what I'm trying to do. Okay, so simple actions. The first and foremost, the first strategy is about maximizing our gifts. Now, I'm going to reinforce the message I said earlier on today. Every single one of us has a jar of oil that we have to offer to people. Every one of us. Thank God that he's not partial in that department. We all have something to offer. And sometimes what we tend to do, especially as women, is we minimize that thing that we've been given. And when we minimize that thing we've been given, guess what we do? We start looking over the fence to the Joneses. And we start looking and thinking, oh, you know, maybe, you know, just like it is, you know, sometimes maybe your gift is doing this and then somebody else's gift is doing that. And you're thinking, oh, maybe if I could do that, if I could sing, if I can model, if I can write books, if I can do that, that would be the problem. So I'm trying to reinforce a message here now. Use whatever you've been given in your hands. Now, just a quick story that just came to my mind, you know, when I was, you know, thinking, just a bit of backstory about myself. Many years ago, I qualified as a biochemist and then worked at the NHS for a number of years and then got bored, as I do. And then I went to go, I did a master's in IT at night. So I was studying at night and working during the day. And I did all of that for a number of years. But you know what? You know, I had a phenomenal job. I was flown to work. I worked around Europe. I was very rarely, you know, in town. Normally on the Sunday night, I'm flying somewhere, you know, cars waiting for me when I arrive, 5-star hotels, business flights, the whole lot. It was fantastic. Yet there was a niggling feeling. And the only way I can describe it when I'm, you know, saying it to people is it's like you're in the bath, but with your socks on. It didn't feel right. And so I remember I was in the Netherlands for about 9 months and I kept saying to Father, you know, why am I feeling this way? I mean, I'm the envy of my friends. What do I feel this way? And he kind of brought my attention to a particular scripture where it talked about in Exodus 4:2, where he said, you know what's that in your hands? And I'm thinking, what do you mean, Lord? Okay. And he said, well, let's do an inventory. What do you do? Okay, so at the time I was leading the women of our ushering team, and then eventually I managed the team. It's about 200 of them, so it's quite a bit of hard work, even while I was abroad. I was the go-to person that women in particular will ask, I'm going for an interview, could you help me prep, please? Or what do you think of my CV? Or could you coach me? I'm going through this, and so on and so forth. And then he brought my attention to something else. Well, what else do you do? And I thought, well, actually, I've been writing columns for women's magazines, international women's magazines, for several years. I've been, writing my ideas. I've been doing a training. I volunteer in a women's refuge, and I was training them so I can empower women. And he's like, well, what's in your hands? And I'm like, oh, so you mean I could use this thing to make money? Well, let's just say 20 plus years. I mean, this is like 23 years down the line. I'm still using that jar of oil, and I remember when I first started, I remember somebody significant in my life was saying to me, how are you going to survive? And I'm like, you know what? I feel this is what Father's wanting me to do. So when there was an opportunity for redundancy, I took it because I knew that this is what Father wanted me to do. Now, I told you that story intentionally because sometimes we belittle the things, especially our strengths that we have. Now, trust me, you might be thinking, but I only do hair. Well, guess what? If somebody didn't do this for me, I'll be scuppered, okay? Now, trust me, there are some hairdressers who are flown by private jets to their celebrities to do their hair. Okay, they are chefs, there are, all sorts of people, chefs, personal trainers, coaches who follow celebrities around or influential people around, so I'm saying all that to say this. It doesn't have to be, doctor, lawyer, all this kind of stuff. And trust me, even them, some people are actually shifting direction and moving out. It doesn't have to be anything like that. But my focus in life has always been to turn women's attention to what's already in your hands. It's there. God gave it to you to utilize it, to use it to profit for yourself and to be a blessing to other people. And sometimes what a number of us do is overlook the importance of that. So I'm going to say what I hear sometimes out there said, slay in your lane, discover what that thing is that you have. And one of the things I tend to do with my clients when I first start working with them is we do a very detailed inventory. So I'm asking you today, now that you've got Saturday off as part of this program, do an inventory of yourself. What's your jar of oil? What are your skills, passions, talents, accomplishments, awards? What are some of the things that you've done that other people don't do? The skills, your life experiences. Make a note of it because trust me, your wealth is in your hands. So what's the second one? The second strategy is about packaging your expertise. Now, I talked about Jane in the past, and Jane was just struggling, as I said before, struggling with being able to, turn her training consultancy into something that was generating money. But there were some things that she wasn't doing well. And this is a thing that I see a lot, especially with females, whether it be your business owner or even a corporate professional. We kind of shortchange ourselves and we wonder why we're not able to turn that package into something profitable. And what a number of people tend to do time and time again is because they don't know the value of what's in their hands, guess what? They give it for free. Now, been there, done it, okay? When people will say, oh, Grace, can I just talk to you for 5 minutes? I'm like, sure, okay, how can I help you? And then they're like, oh, can you just tell me, how do I write a book? And I'm like, how do you write a book? Okay, well, I did a master's in publishing. I took a year out. I worked in some publishing houses. How do you want me to put that in 5 minutes? But you know what some of us do? They say, okay, yeah, here's my card, call me. Okay, so she calls me and that 5 minutes becomes 1 hour. And for certain, I'd be honest to say that 1 hour in some people's case became months and months of mentoring and coaching without getting paid. Why? Because at one point, I wasn't completely valuing what I had and I didn't have the packages and the systems in place to turn those conversations into something profitable. So if I'm having some of those conversations now, I'll just say, you know what? I have an FAQ or a short ebook on my website. Here's the link, have a look at it. If you still need my services, book a session with my personal assistant, and then we'll send you an invoice and we'll take it from there. Okay, all right. So again, when we don't necessarily package what we have, guess what? We end up like Jane, working hard, 2, 3, 4 jobs, earning less and still not having enough to support ourselves as individuals. So the key thing is about packaging. So when I say packaging, just imagine, I mean, I don't know if any of you's had bought an iPhone box before. Sorry, not a box. Of course you don't buy the box. You buy an iPhone. Okay. From just the packaging alone, you know the value of that item. By the time you now open this box and see, unpack it, you start to think, oh my God, this thing was worth the XXX amount I paid for, okay? And that's what we need to start doing as individuals. So for example, if you do hair, you might say, oh, okay, I charge £30. No, 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 no. Okay, how about, okay, I have a consultation. I can, we can do it by Zoom. I can see what the state of your hair is. I can purchase the hair for you. I can do this. Here's my package, all in, it's going to cost you £250. Okay. Sometimes, I was speaking to a new person who came onto one of my Monetize Your Expertise bootcamp, and they're saying, okay, so I said, how much do you charge as a coach? And they're like, oh, I charge, something ridiculous, like, maybe £60 an hour. And I'm like, hold on, tell me what it is you do for your clients again. And she told me all the things. And I said, you charge XYZ an hour. So, one of the things I always get, people to do, and we just don't have the time to do that. Maybe I can answer that in one of the questions, but is think about when you are charging, so packaging yourself. So that includes your brand, that includes how you communicate with people. So that's it. For example, if I was to ask you for a quote, if you're a serious person, I don't want to be getting a response from a Gmail account or a Hotmail account. It doesn't speak packaging and excellence, okay? Not in this day and time. So it's about how you put yourself together. And that's what really helped Jane to be able to put her head above the parapet. And all of a sudden, people started to notice, like, who's this one? Where was she all this time? Where did she come from? Either way, they started to notice her. So there's part of it is packaging yourself. So if you're a coach, a speaker, a designer, you do websites, you bake cakes, whatever it is, you need to think about the package you're putting together. And I always say this to people, that always be ready, because imagine being on a plane or a train, or sitting next to somebody who says, oh, what do you do? And you say, blah, blah, blah. So for example, I train my clients to say, I'm Grace, I'm the founder of Multiple Income Women, and I coach women leaders and experts to become well-paid thought leaders. Now, if you can't say that very quickly and then say, okay, where's your card? Here's my card. You just never know. That person could be your future partner, as in business partner. That person could be a joint venture investor, just like, was mentioned in the property session earlier on. You just don't know. So it's about packaging yourself and being in that stance, as a woman who has a jar of oil. That means business. And remember, just because we are Christians, or just because you're a person of faith, doesn't mean you devalue what God has given you. Absolutely not. We don't do that. So it's about charging correctly. In fact, I just want to re-emphasize the point. You are already an expert. Forget that whether you didn't go to university or not, you don't have this qualifications, that qualifications, you're already an expert, because it's already written in your DNA. God has already encoded it in your DNA. Sorry, it's my scientist speaking here. And just in case you're wondering, let me use a modern day term. You've already got the apps downloaded on the inside of you. God's done that, okay? So it's for you to think about how you use that. Now, another way that a number of us, the third and final one I'm going to share with you, is about becoming visible. Now, unfortunately, there is an issue with women across the board, whether you're a corporate professional climbing that corporate ladder, a businesswoman, whatever it is, we have an issue that we really need to work on, is the lack of not becoming visible for a couple of reasons. And I'll share those reasons. Number one, we don't like to self-promote ourselves because we think, oh, maybe it's not humble. We use words like that, or it's proud and whatever. I pray, tell me, I beg, tell me, who is gonna promote you if you don't do it yourself? Guess what? This is a women's conference, right? And I don't know if there's guys around here, but guess what? The men are doing it. So sometimes you might be in an office and you've been waiting for promotion. You've just seen all these people just pass you by, especially men. And you're thinking, hello, am I invisible? Guess what? You are not making yourself visible. So this is again for even people in the corporate world. You are not making yourself visible. You're not sharing your success. You're not celebrating your success. Now, obviously, there is a way to do it, But if you're not doing that, no one's gonna batter an eyelid or no. And guess what? A lot of people develop offense because they think, well, why am I not being recognized? Well, you know what, my dear Esther, I want you to recognize who you are as a person and elevate yourself and start sharing your success. Now, there are ways of doing it. It's not the bragging. It's not like what some people do, on Facebook, which I hate. They show us their bank balance, they're in front of their car. We don't need that, okay? But people need to know what value, your jar of oil, you are bringing to the table. How do I know that you do cakes? How do I know that you do hair? How do I know that you're an accountant? How do I know that you're a coach or that you could even help me? If we don't do those things, we're going to really struggle. So number one, self-promotion is not a crime, okay? Promote yourself, make yourself visible. Remember I said this when I was working with Jane, it was like kind of uncomfortable, but I say to people, if you're coming to work with me, you need to be willing to take action you've never done before. And look at the results, right? Turning down over £10,000 worth of business. In fact, we've been talking, we only spoke, I think, 2 Fridays ago, and the business is still going from strength to strength to strength. And this was somebody who was struggling to pay her mortgage not too long ago. Okay, so taking action. The next one is celebrating your success. Post, if you've done something, baked a cake, and it doesn't even have to be for a client. If you've written a book, a blog or something, anything you've done, just put it on your social media. I spent the day today, writing a new book. Or for me, sometimes if I've just finished another book, it's like, yay, everybody, guess what? Another book is on the way, okay? Just because I didn't say, I've written several books. I'm also a publisher and I publish books for my client. In fact, I'm also publishing Jane's book as well. And by the way, let me just remind you of something about Jane's story. Remember, Jane came to me because she wanted me to help her not just write her book as a book coach, but also publish it. Guess what? All the success I've been talking about right now has happened without the book. We are going to get the book done this August by God's grace. It has not been. So I'm just trying to say, sometimes we put barriers in the way thinking, oh, I don't have the book, I don't have the car, the qualification. Guess what? You already have all those things. Number three, go to where your clients are. If you want people who are going to pay you, go to where they are. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, wherever they are. Go and find them. Number four, become more visible, okay? So have social media accounts. And by the way, I'm not talking about social media so you start surfing or browsing. It's about, making yourself more visible so people know exactly what you offer and they know what your jar of oil is. Now, one of the things I always tell my clients to do is become Google famous. So in fact, when people come to me and they start to they want me to work with them, I just quickly Google them and I'm like, girlfriend, you're not famous. Nobody knows you. We've got work to do, okay? So tip, become Google famous. So I'm hoping that, what I've shared with you today, will help you in terms of creating your own Jane story. The key thing is be clear on what your jar of oil is and maximize it. Jane is going to have books. She's got training, she's speaking, training, she's got lots of things going on. It's about multiple incomes because, to be honest, that's the only way these days. Number two, package it and package it really, really well. Number three, become more visible. Put your head above the parapet. You may not necessarily be on the mountaintop like some of those influencers who like 20 trillion followers, okay? But at least be visible. Be different, stand out, okay? Let's see the jar of oil that you have to offer and so that you can move yourself forward. So that's basically what I have, to share with you. And I just wanted to share with you a couple of things. What I've just shared with you is literally part of a 12-week bootcamp that I'm currently running at the moment, but we are also taking on board new people who want to come on this program. And we have, I wish I could have my coaches on the ladies with the bootcamp on this program. They will be sharing with you story upon story of the difference that it's making in their businesses. And we're only at week 6, okay? So my goal is to create more Jane stories. So there's some information and I'll share a link later on. If you go on bit.ly, MYE, get paid, you can find some more information. And I did promise you a free gift. So here's a book. If you go on bit.ly /3 tips to get paid, there's a book for you. I'll share the link again in the chat. And the whole idea, this is really to tackle women who are struggling with getting paid for their work. So I have a lot of women who come to me to say, you know what, I did about 10 days worth of consulting for a friend and I didn't get a penny, or I did their books and I didn't get a penny. I did somebody's hair, you know, I'm not getting paid. Or as one lady said, I've been coaching and mentoring people for 10 years and not earned a penny. If that's you and you want to learn how to move away from that free to generating income from those conversations, that book is a free book. You need it. Just download it and get yourself set free. But apart from that, I'm hoping that you've gained some value from today, and I'm looking forward to getting your questions around how to work less, earn more, and stress less about money. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. You were just dropping gems left, right, and center, which is fantastic. One of the key things that I picked up was when you mentioned Exodus 4:2, what is that you have in your hand, and the jar of oil. We carry so many things as women. And one of the things you mentioned about visibility is so, so key, because I know in my place of work, there's so many men that when they see a job spec and they only have, I think there's even research about it, they only have like 20% of what is on there, but yet they still apply. But women wait until they get around 70, 80% done on what is on the job spec before they apply. So I really, really appreciate that in terms of visibility. When you spoke about that, when you spoke about action, it's so important, because we can talk from now to tomorrow, but if we're not taking action, then you know, what is the point? So I think you dropped so many gems, and I know that from today I'm going to be doing a detailed inventory. I'm going to go read your ebook as well. I think you're amazing. Absolutely. I think you're absolutely amazing. And I thank God for your life. And I'm sure that everybody on this call has, you know, benefited in a way from what you've said. So, because you dropped so many gems, like, honestly, I was trying to scribble down everything you were saying, but I just couldn't.
Well, I had only 30 minutes and I just wanted to give you so much value, at least to get you to think. That was really my goal. So I've dropped some links in there so people could actually get some information.
One of the questions, actually, since we're going into our question and answer session, there's a question that's come through that I thought I would throw in your direction. It is, oh, thank you. I've seen your link there. So I'll definitely click on that. And everybody, if you want the link to the ebook, it's in the chat. Grace has just put it kindly in the chat for us. So the question is, what is the best time to register your business for tax purposes?
Okay, well, you know what, I can talk about that. However, I'm seeing the mindsets behind the person potentially who's asking this question. I don't think the issue is around, you know, because sometimes we're thinking the structure, the legal aspect. I don't have a domain name. I don't have a website. So by the time they come to me, it's like, oh no, I don't have, like you said, 80%, they're looking for perfection before they start. Whoever asked that question, I will refer you to my accountant, okay? And he will give you that necessary information. However, I'm trying to encourage you, don't wait for all those things to happen before you put things in place. You can register yourself as a sole trader, you know, and start doing things or just putting things in place. So, you know, it's not, I'm saying that not as a cop-out, I'm saying that because I, in 25 years, I have seen it, you know, time and time again. And I just want people to move away from that. I need to have this in place before I take action. So put that aside, go and do it. In fact, show me your business plan. And I think then we'll be ready to have that conversation about legal structure and so on and so forth.
Yep, that's actually a valid point. We do. I don't know if it's everybody else, but I do that. I always try and make sure I have everything in order before I start. And by the time you start, all the passion, everything has kind of disappeared. But one of the questions that I also have is there's a lot of ladies on this call that might not be savvy with social media. Okay. So, you know, when you said about being visible on social media, all of, you know, Instagram, well, not really Facebook, but Facebook ads, Snapchat. There's so many different forms of social media nowadays. How do you pick the right one for your business? How do you find, because in today's world, there's just so many things going on and you want to make sure that you're focusing on the right area. How do you know if it's better to go on Instagram rather than Facebook, or to go on Snapchat, or to go on TikTok, because there's so many different ones nowadays.
Fantastic question. You know what I say to my clients? This is the simple thing we need to do. You need to go to where your ideal client is. Okay, so, and when I say ideal client, I'm talking about, I mean, part of what I do with, in the Monetize Your Expertise program is we spend a lot of time understanding who your client avatar are. If you're not sure what an avatar is, Google it, but it's about your ideal client who will pay you for what you want. Okay, so this is not, the bargain bucket people, the people looking for freebies. You're going to be looking, so there is some research that you need to do to find where they are, and then you establish yourself there. So if you're looking for business to business or professionals, guess what? It's the LinkedIn. If you're looking for, so to be honest, Facebook and Instagram are still, relatively good places where a lot of people go. So that will be a starting point for anybody. And when I say Instagram and Facebook, this is not to be playing games or watching videos or things that other people are doing. And I'm not even talking about a profile account. Forget that. Open yourself a page and call it your business name. Okay, so that you become visible. So Facebook, I'll always suggest that anyway, at least as a starting point. And because it's linked to Instagram, you can kind of cross-sell across both of them anyway. But the answer to the question is where are your avatar, your ideal clients, and wherever they are, you need to show up where they are.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That was really helpful. And the final question before we move onto our interactive session is, how do you know how to, it's basically about pricing. You don't want to overprice yourself. So you don't want to price yourself out of the market, but you don't want to price too low. So how do you get that balance of making sure that you are, monetizing your gifts, and so for example, for coaching, you're using the right rates? Okay. Because that's a lot of people's worry. They don't want to overprice it, because if you go to your customers and they say, oh, wow, that's so expensive. Okay. But you also don't want to sell yourself short, because you don't want to put a price that's too low that people don't appreciate the value that they're getting from your business. So how do you manage that? Okay, two-prong approach. Remember, I talked about your avatar who are willing to pay you. I do not expect anybody listening to this to start pricing their side what they're offering down because, oh, somebody nearly fell off their chair when you told them your price. Let them move on and go to somebody else. Remember, there are people flying people like you and me out to go and do things. There are people who are willing to pay. So number one, okay. Number two, when people come to me for whether it be writing books, starting a business, or even the Monetize Your Expertise bootcamp, the first thing, one of the key things you're going to be doing is market research. I cannot overemphasize the or I can't remember the right word. Anyway, you get me. Okay, you need to know what's going on in the market. So who are your competitors? So that could be competitors. So these are people who already have the people you want as clients. They're your competitors. You need to be thinking about, okay, so are there other influencers in the field? Are there other people selling products and services like you? Who are they? What are they charging? And sometimes you might have to buy some of their services if it's a book or something, just to understand what they're doing. So number one, everything's based around market research. And then also, as I said, it's, when you look at what you're offering, it's about the value. So for example, let me give an example. If I'm coaching somebody like the lady I said now, she's turned down over £10,000 a week, okay? Trust me, I'm not going to be charging you, £100 for a session, okay? So it's related to the value you're offering. Now, that said, you have some hairdressers who are in High Street Kensington, and you have some who are not so much in High Street Kensington. So you're not going to charge High Street Kensington prices until you move to High Street Kensington. So it's about seeing where you are. And you know what? Marketing is a simple thing. It's about putting a package together or an offer of a service or a product, and then putting it out there. If people don't want it, guess what? There could be a couple of problems. The problem could be the message. So for example, I see a lot of dodgy Facebook ads.
I'm like, who is it for? Men, women, dogs, cat? Who is it for? Okay, the message is not clear. Number two, it could be your offering. So it could be to do the pricing, or it even could be, okay, I've read everything, but I still don't understand what I'm getting from you. So I'm not paying the money. Okay. And so it could be a whole number of other factors. So you need to it's trial and error. That's why in marketing, they say A/B testing. Facebook ads, you put ad A, ad B, track it for a few days. What's working better? Okay, I'll follow that one. So there's no science to this. And that's why I say to people, you must be willing to do the work. However, if you're struggling to, for example, I've got somebody who's nearly mid-50s, nearly 60s, never used social media before. So it was a baptism of fire to get her to register Facebook, because we have a private hidden Facebook group. It was a baptism of fire. You know what? I understand that people are busy. Sometimes the learning curve may be too steep. Guess what? Hire. I run a digital marketing agency. I design websites, landing pages. We can do social media for you. So send me a message. I don't do free and I don't do cheap. Okay. But you'll get quality. Okay. But in addition to that, there are websites like Fiverr. You can get things done for like $5, £5. Okay. 5 squid. You can outsource. So now I've already started to outsource a lot of my work to lots of people. So, you know, I'm saying this to say, for somebody who's still thinking, oh, I can't do this, you can get out of your own way, and move forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just conscious of time, so we'll move on to the next session. But I just want to let everybody know that there will be time 10 minutes after towards the end of the event to ask more questions. So please keep your questions coming in. We will have another opportunity to tap into Grace's knowledge and ask as many questions as possible.